What is going on today, guys? Welcome back to the channel and today's video. Merry Christmas formally if you didn't see any of my posts prior, and Happy New Year just in case this video doesn't make it in time. But today we are on a mission to somewhat retrofit an oil cooler we just got. So let's check it out real quick. The oil cooler is from Jackson Racing. Ordered it from Counterspace Garage, one of the best people in the business of FRSs and 86s. Comes with a really nice manual here, instruction manual, but we can't use any of this because we don't have a stock crash bar anymore. So this kind of goes out the window, but it's a super nice kit. It's got Aeroquip hoses. I know they're not the best hoses in the world, and I believe these are push lock fittings technically, but they're more than fitting for the use case. And in the future, if I ever need to retrofit it, I can always make my own lines, do whatever is necessary. So the kit comes with all the hardware for their mounting solution, which I'm probably going to reuse in different ways. It comes with a really nice sandwich plate, as well as super nice thermostatic plate to switch on and off when you cross, I believe, 180 degrees. So pretty thorough kit. And lastly here, a 15 row oil cooler, and it's pretty dang wide. It's much wider than their 13 row, as I found out. And this is used for NA and boosted applications. I'm not gonna spoil anything yet, but there's a reason why there's Ecutech in the box. So normally we'd be installing this right away, but yesterday on Christmas, I noticed this thing was jingling a little too much, as if it had some Christmas bells in it or something like that. And I opened the side that I felt like was making some noise, and I found, unfortunately, that inside this core, and you might not be able to see it, but inside this core, I'll put some pictures up now, there's quite a few, I'm not sure if they are paint chips or metal flakes. I can't really discern the two because the way it was clinking around in here, it sounded like metal. Either which way, it's inside the core, and I'm a little skeptical to run the engine with oil coming through this, getting hot, maybe releasing those chips, and coming through the oil filter at different times or through the oil pickup. I just don't know if that's worth the risk, so I already contacted them. Hopefully we're getting a new core, but that's why the title of today's video is making our own custom mounts for the oil cooler. Now, I've already done quite a lot of R&D on how I'm gonna do this oil cooler setup. So let me go ahead and show you on the car how we're gonna be attaching this. So if you're not already aware, we run the True Focus Fab dual row bash bar. So that means there is no more stock crash beam to mount to. But it also means benefit, besides that drawback, we have a lot more room in here to work with. And with the stock crash beam and the oil cooler placement prior, I'm not convinced that a lot of these oil coolers get a lot of good airflow, because there's too much stuff in here with that stock crash beam. With the bash bar, this under tray also had to be removed. And there used to be, I've taken it off at this point, this little bracket which fits in here. It's used to support your plastic tray that used to be here for me, along with these points here, and then the points on the bumper to bolt to. So that's what it used to do previously. What I did was drilled holes in it, so now I can create a mount that will stack it right here in front of our other radiators. So as I said, I've done a lot of research and development in this arena so far. So this was my first mount. I ended up making it 2 times and making it too short because I was basing it off the 13 row on accident, which is only, I believe, 13 inches long. So unfortunately this was never going to work out, but the initial problem that I also found out was there was no bend in it, and it was just way too close to the radiators. So then part 2, I created another one of these. So I did 2 different rod sizes and spaced them equally as I could to make a slight angle and it actually worked out really well. It was super sleek. It was just too narrow because the current oil cooler is actually 16 inches. So last night I made this gargantuan, which is 16 inches long and deep. It has the spacing required for the tabs. It's long enough. I was gonna cut metal out of it because it's become a little too heavy because I ran out of metal. So what I ended up doing was I used a piece of metal here, welded it onto these larger flaps. But what I'd like to do today is do a final version, which is going to be an angle piece, which is just a little bit longer. We're going to then weld the rods on like we did in this version to create the angle, and then from there we should have a working piece that's finally done. I have not received word from any of the companies about the core, so I'm just going to keep using it to retrofit because I honestly do not think this thing is usable, and that's just too much of a risk to run through your engine. Although I know technically you could and do an oil change and just deal with it, but you know, I'd just rather not. So we're gonna try to make it fancy, do the angle that we pulled off in this prior one, and we're gonna go through that process now. So I'm gonna show you everything I'm gonna use real quick. First thing you're gonna need, cheap welder. Now I got this from Jegs, but it's comparable to any Harbor Freight cheapish welder. This one has you know, multiple different ways of using it, but right now I'm using flux core. So all the metal that we're using here is mostly 1/8. We have the angle piece that I was talking about, the 90 degree. Then we have 2-inch slabs of 1/8 inch. That's probably not the right term at all, but 2 inches wide for the tabs for the mounting and 1/8 inch thick. Then we have the 2 different thickness rods. I can't remember what the thicknesses are, but all I remember is I did use a smaller piece on the original one, the V2 mount, and I was like blowing through that rod trying to weld it. So I got a bigger piece so that hopefully it can like withstand the welds a little bit more and make a better stick. Now all the miscellaneous stuff you're gonna need: cut wheel, something to wipe off the flux if you're doing flux, some grinding discs. I also have a flapper here, which I just love finishing stuff with that. It looks so cool. You're gonna need a drill to do your holes. I do have a step bit just in case. Some different ways to grip the pieces you're working on. I would, you know, some kind of table, but you know, I have very limited space in this garage and we're literally working off of a trash can. So this is, I could set up a more optimal work area, but you know, this is what we got, so we're just gonna rock with it. And you always got to improvise and just move on, because the other option is what? Not drifting. So no, I think this is the better way out. So we got a Harbor Freight cut wheel, Ryobi cut wheel, Ryobi drill. Like I said, Home Depot, Harbor Freight, all the way through. So this should be pretty fun to do, and at least I have a little bit of experience doing it now, so hopefully it won't be as bad this time. I do really want to incorporate some kind of artsy feel into it. Like, I want it to look good, so I think I'm gonna do some kind of angle thing with the tabs, and we might even use these to use as our tabs. Just cut these off, reuse them, that way I can reuse this angle, because I think it would be cool to have some kind of angle going on in there. messed up on this left side. I did not measure it nearly enough before I welded all this together, and it's going to be offset like about an inch to the left. So it's not going to be like dead on center. It is what it is. I've spent a lot of time on this one, but you know, at least I'm learning and learning more and more with metalwork, and every time I do one of these so far, it's gotten better. The welds have gotten better, the cuts have gotten better. The only time I'm really having like regretful decisions is when I'm rushing. So I think I just need to calm down, take my time, measure a bajillion times before I start welding something entirely shut to the point where I can't undo it. But you know, you live and you learn. You know, I can't complain. This is still very fun to do, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna have the exact oil cooler mount that I want. I got it jimmied up to perfection here, or close to, and what I'm thinking about is actually just welding one of these tabs I cut off back on here. We'll see. I do have a 90-degree magnet, so I think I can actually do that. I think first, just need to lay this down and make sure we have 16 inches of oil cooler rack. Cool. Now we got a somewhat full piece. If we attached it right now, it'd be offset to the left. I think I'm gonna go ahead and weld in something right here, another plate. Plenty of cutaways to choose from here. So I just gotta pick one. Go ahead, throw it in. So obviously, if we have a little bit of an imagination, it's going to be a little more at the right angle, pretty much like that. Hopefully you can see that, but we have plenty of space. We're actually, I think the angle is either matching it or it's not enough. I don't think that's what it should be, like that. Actually, I think it's matching it pretty well. Yeah, just not quite enough, but it's still good enough for the clearance that we want, and not that much effect on total surface area affected. But this is freaking sweet. I'm so happy with it. It's gonna look really cool too. Yeah, it's gonna look so right in the middle there. I'm gonna paint the bracket black as well to finish it off, but that's pretty much how she's gonna sit and look. With the lines, you'll be able to see it a little more, but yeah, pretty freaking wicked. All right, guys, that is gonna be it for this part one of oil cooler, making our own custom mounts, and I think it turned out pretty well. The only thing I'm somewhat worried about now is rocks coming up from the ground. So we might think of an under tray situation. I'll talk to some people and see if I really should be that worried. Or just like I said, make an under tray. That way I don't have to worry about it at all. But your oil cooler is always gonna kind of take hits just like any other piece of your car that's right out front taking hits. But I do prefer this much better than mounting it to the crash bar, which if we do get in a collision, that's even worse having it on the crash bar, because then it just gets absolutely ruined and now you're not pushing oil anymore whatsoever. So that's pretty cool. I'm stoked on it. You know, it works for what it is. And the cool thing about it too is if I do need to remount this somewhere, I can just unbolt it, flip it upside down. It'll work upside down. And then I just come up with some kind of mount from the top. So it's not all lost here once we do switch the mounting around to something else. So this is pretty cool. At least we have the spacing all done. And you can see there where I welded on the inside to join these two pieces. And from the outside, I really don't think you can tell. You can, I mean, you know, because you know, but from an outside perspective, you wouldn't really know. But yeah, and you won't even see that anyways. So pretty cool all together. Really stoked on this. Hopefully we get that core pretty soon for the oil cooler, or a new core, and just figure out the install. It shouldn't be that hard of an install, especially now that we have the mount solution worked out. And this mount actually, in my opinion, is much easier than the Jackson Racing mount. So it's much easier to work with, service if you needed to service it. The Jackson Racing mount is kind of like in the OEM crash bar, and a lot of the mounts out there are in the OEM crash bar or on the plastic under panel, which in my opinion, horrible idea. Don't ever mount your oil cooler to the plastic panel on the bottom. Companies who are selling you oil coolers that do that are out of their freaking minds. But besides that, I think you can really get away with mounting it anywhere, but this mount I think is super convenient now that we don't have that under tray, and we'll see how this works out in the future. So I will catch you guys on the next one, part 2, when we get to installing it. Hopefully that comes soon. Peace.